So what I plan to get done this week and what I got done this week are two things completely different. I plan to do the drive shaft, and I dragged the torches out, and I got everything set up, ready to go. And then I realized I had no oxygen. So, that's putting the real part in the real guy garage. So instead, I had a million little things still to finish up on the engine and the chassis. So that's what we ended up doing. Okay, it was a delivery this morning. So we've got our upper and lower rad hoses, we've got our sensors, and we have a brand new starter. First thing I noticed was I opened up the box and there were no shims. So I flipped through the paperwork, and apparently you do not need shims with these newer starters. So we'll see how true that is when we go to crank it over and it either binds or doesn't. So we will find out. But at least we have a brand new starter. And the brand new starter was about $100. I called a couple places and it was about $75 plus tax to have mine rebuilt. And they said, assuming it could be rebuilt. And I don't like rebuilding starters, so that was my option at that point. So we'll see if we can get this starter in here. Okay, so I put the starter on, and it fit okay. And I've been working on getting all these vacuum lines hooked back up again and putting the hoses on it. So I got the majority of that stuff done, and we can start moving on to other stuff. Okay, so we're going to move on to one of the more important projects, and that is the body mounts for the truck. Because obviously, when I say important, these are what our cab is mounted to our frame with, and same with our rad support. So we need to make 6 good ones out of what we have here. So I bought one of these kits from Energy Suspension, which I've used their stuff before, and I mostly bought their kit because it was the most cost-effective way to go. So LMC Truck sells all of the body mount components. The problem with the LMC Truck stuff is they sell all those components individually. So they're comprised of 4 major parts, basically. You have the bottom bushing, the bottom mount, then you have the bushing that sits in it, then you have a top mount that goes over top of that, and then the washer, and then obviously you have a bolt that goes through it. So each of these pieces I would have had to purchase separately from them, and they were about $15 a piece. Plus, if I wanted to, I'd have to buy the bolts, and for the rad I'd have to buy the nuts and everything too. So I was not interested in going that route if I didn't have to. So the Energy Suspension kit, it provides you just the isolators. So it reuses all of your steel parts. So what I'm going to do is, all this stuff's going to go to the sandblaster. I'll get all of them done. I'm going to get all the cups done. And when we get it back, we'll prime and paint them and get them to the point where we can assemble them. So I get the air cleaner painted and reassembled. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. One of the other things is I got the axle flange ends cleaned off, so we're ready to put the drums on and adjust those. And we're also going to go ahead and put a new pinion seal in here. I have the actual pinion flange here. I'm going to drop it off to get sandblasted tomorrow. It's pretty nasty, right? And then what we're going to do is, down here, I could probably clean it up with a bit of emery cloth and what have you. And it likely probably would never be an issue. But the other thing that we can do, that I prefer to do, so here's our new pinion seal, and what I picked up was a sleeve. And I'll show you how that works when I get the pinion back from being blasted, but for now we're just going to change our seal. So these are the original drums. I took them off, I measured them, realized that there was tons and tons of material here left. I got them sandblasted, and then I got a friend of mine to run them on the lathe. And they cleaned up pretty good. Like I said, still tons of material there, so we can always cut them again if we need to. Installation of the drums at this point is pretty straightforward. Our shoes are already backed in. I've gone ahead and put a little bit of anti-seize just so that if we need to take these drums off again, they'll come off again. And we'll just slide the drum on. And then what we'll do is, from here, next thing we can do is put our wheels back on. Or you can put a lug nut on, which is what I'm going to do. It's because the rims are kind of ugly, and I really don't want to put them back on a clean drum right now until I have a chance to clean them up. So I'll go ahead and I'll throw the other drum on. I'll put a lug nut on just to retain them, and then we'll adjust these brakes. Okay, so adjustment. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to go ahead and tighten them up until you cannot rotate the drum, and then we'll back it off half a turn or a quarter turn. Depends on how coarse the thread is on the adjuster. That's the way I was taught to do them. And after you do them for quite a while, you get to the point where you do them mostly by feel anyway. Okay, can't turn it anymore. Okay, I'll go back a little more. I apologize. It's not normally this awkward, it's just that I'm trying to hold the camera because the tripod will not go low enough. So that's probably good right there for now, because these brakes are still going to have to seat in. And then what we'll do is we'll readjust them after everything's broke in. So we'll get the other side done here, and we got a rubber plug to put back in here. Okay, so it's not hard to tell why I want to go ahead and replace this pinion seal. I mean, at this point, I've replaced both axle seals, and I've done a bunch of other stuff with this truck, so it's kind of a no-brainer to take this nasty old seal out of here before we end up with a new problem later on. So what I usually do is, you can see there's like a little ridge here, and I will take and usually get a punch or a chisel under it and just kind of walk it off there. Now I'm trying not to hit the camera here, so I'm trying to do it kind of awkward. Alright. Okay. Doesn't help that this is a really crusty old seal. It's probably the original, to be honest with you. By the looks of it anyway, it probably is. Sure doesn't want to come out. There we go. Alright, so what we will do is come in here and we'll clean all this stuff up here. Right, we'll get all that out of there. We'll clean off where this sits. And there's our old seal. As you can see, it's had better days. So we'll get all that cleaned up. And then we will start preparing. Okay, now the not so fun part. We have to try and get this sucker in here. So with everything kind of cleaned up here, take our new seal, which is going to go right in here obviously. And what I have is actually an axle nut tool for, I believe, a Ford truck with a Dana. I can't remember. Got a lot of old stuff I haven't used in a long time because it's kind of outdated. There you go. So that's our new seal installed. And now we'll wait for everything else to get blasted. And then we can reassemble everything. So that's the difference there. Figured I'd show you this. I thought this was kind of neat. So when I was ordering the U-joints, I found that you could buy this kit from Moog. And what it gave you is, let me just take and dump it out here. So there's the kit number. And it gives you new U-joint caps and all new bolts. And it was about, I think, $4 or $5. So rather than putting all kinds of rusty old garbage back together, for $4 we got everything brand new. So I dug around in amongst my junk, and sure enough, I did have a brand new pinion nut. So that's a bonus. See, keeping all kinds of old junk does pay off sometimes. As you can see, I was digging through my pile here. So that's a bonus right there, because I think they're about $5 or $6 a piece.